I'm Scott Ott, and this is Bill Whittle Now. Bill has no idea what I'm about to ask him. And Bill, I don't know whether you've seen this video or not, but 23 million people on Facebook and 2.3 million on YouTube have seen a backstage commentary from Trevor Noah, the host of The Daily Show on the Comedy Channel. And Trevor Noah is talking about an idea that I think I would love to hear you grapple with. And basically what he said was that President Trump's most powerful tool is his ability to wield victimhood. He's specifically talking in terms of the Kavanaugh confirmation hearings for Justice Brett Kavanaugh, now Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. And he's saying that President Trump has done a masterful job of taking the focus off victims of sexual assault or sexual harassment or abuse and putting it on victims of false accusations. And here's Trevor Noah's point. His point is that the former, the abuse of women, is a much, much greater problem than the latter, which is the false accusations against men. But Bill, I don't want to get into the particulars of it unless you have read the transcript and want a detailed commentary on it. What I'd rather like to deal with is the question of, aren't both sides wrong because they're collectivizing from a particular case?
Well, I would disagree and say that if you really want to take an orbital view of it, Scotty, both sides are right. Needless to say, domestic assault and assault against women is a very serious issue. It certainly, look, I'm not a researcher, but I mean, I've had my eyes open when I was, growing up. It certainly seems to be a lot less common now than it was back in the 50s. Let's say you watch I Love Lucy, for example, Scott. Watch carefully, and you'll see Lucy. Whenever Desi gets angry, he's like, Ricky Ricardo. He's like, it's not a joke. And so to the degree that people are saying that it needs to be about that we shouldn't be degrading the victims, they're right. But they're also right about the value of your reputation and your character. And this is the one thing that I've been seeing throughout the entire goat rodeo, is that women and people, well, women and Trevor Noah, but I repeat myself, they have this idea that your honor, your integrity, your reputation is essentially something kind of like a business card. And if you happen to get it tarnished, then you just, have another one printed or whatever the case may be. The reason that they're so cavalier about honor is because they don't have any. The reason that they're so cavalier about having somebody's character besmirched is because they don't have any character to besmirch. They cannot understand the power of being accused of something that you didn't do, because they do not have a sense of morality that would make such distinctions useful to them.
Now, Bill, let me clarify, because Trevor Noah's point is not that false accusations against men are non-existent. It's just that it is a very, very small percentage of the actual cases that occur in the country. And
how does he know?
He openly says that he himself had grown concerned about saying, well, what happens if I were to be falsely accused of this? What would that do to me? And then he basically said, I realized it's kind of like, people's fear. He didn't say this, I'm saying this. He's saying it's kind of like people's fear of shark attacks. They almost never happen, but the entire country is afraid of sharks. And the question here, I guess, is not so much the specifics of, was Trevor Noah right? Was Donald Trump right? But isn't it incumbent upon conservatives who believe in individual rights and equal justice under law and the rule of law to focus instead on individual cases rather than making sweeping generalizations for particular instances? I will add one case to this. That is the idea that...
Let me just address that before I forget.
Go ahead.
There is only individual cases. This idea of social justice, this idea that a group of people are harmed in a collective way and therefore must be compensated in another collective way, I just don't much particularly buy into. I think there are individual cases of injustice, many of them, and they need to be rectified one person at a time. And first of all, I just challenge the assertion. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying it's an assertion. If he didn't back it up, this idea, the false accusations are a very, very small number. How does he know? How does he know?
He's going from the reported instances, and he said, we did some research on the show here, and we found that at least in the names that have been bandied about in public or in the news media, there are about 100 people who have been accused of sexual assault. Now, he doesn't give a number for those who've been falsely accused, but basically then he turned to the audience and said, if I asked all the men in the audience to raise their hand if they've ever been falsely accused, I don't know if I'd see a single hand. But if I asked the women...
There's no conservatives in the audience, Scott.
But if I asked the women whether they had been sexually assaulted...
Whoa. Let's just stop right there. First of all, he would say something like that. I don't think there'd be anybody in here falsely accused. First of all, he doesn't know that. Secondly, he is not on the receiving end of that gun. He's on the trigger end of the gun. And they were on the trigger end of the gun. Guys like Noah were on the trigger end of the gun in the case at was it Duke? And they were in the trigger case on the Rolling Stone thing and all of these things. We're on the bullet end of all of these accusations. We're on the bullet end of racism. We're on the bullet end of being Nazis. We're on the bullet end of having our personalities smeared because we dare to disagree with the liberal line. We're on the bullet end of everything. And if he's basically saying, well, I don't know what the big problem being on the bullet end of it is, that's the sound of a guy holding a gun, pulling the trigger. Now, sorry, continue, please.
Well, what you just did is exactly what the point of his, by the way, very even-keeled, very authentic and sensitive and...
Oh, please.
Not, he didn't get all lathered up about this. Let me just say it that way.
No, of course not.
And what his point is that President Trump has been successful in making a whole group of people who have not been falsely accused of sexual assault believe that that's a clear and present danger. And Republicans around the country are using this and the mob violence accusation against people on the left to basically say, if you elect people on the left, there'll be nothing but false accusations against men for sexual assault and mob riots in the streets on a daily basis.
Okay, so basically what Noah is saying is this. There's very few people that are actually put in a cage with a bunch of feral weasels, and it hardly ever happens at all. Although we are the people who are determining who goes into the cage, and we're the people who are throwing in the feral weasels. So it's kind of unfair to say that this is a common thing when it's not. We selectively, meaning Noah and the rest of the people on the left, we will selectively choose which people we want to destroy, and it'll be 5 or 10 people, some national significance every year or so. And they will be able to say, well, 5 or 10 people out of the number of people who've been harmed by domestic assault, that's nothing. But that's not the point. It's an assault. It's an assault on somebody's character. It's an assault on their person. And what he's basically saying is, well, it doesn't happen that often, therefore it's not as important. It doesn't matter if it's as important. They're both important. They both matter. There's justice to be done on both sides of this. And what he's doing, Scott, is he's justifying that assault on Kavanaugh. He's justifying the entire thing. What he's basically saying is this, kind of like a bit like the other children, like progressives play, where they're in the back seat of the car and they keep punching you and 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 punching you. Finally, you turn to punch him back and they go, Mom, Trevor's hitting me. And it's just plain nonsense. I can see through this stuff clear as day. I understand how all of this Machiavellian stuff works, Scotty. That's why we're here. What he's done is he's tried to put some sort of a qualitative excuse on what they did to Brett Kavanaugh, and parenthetically, what they've done to me and you and Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck and every single one of the rest of us who have nothing but the best intentions for all of the people of this country. He's basically putting a quantitative.
Quantitative is the word. That's
yes,
right.
That's right. He's trying to basically say this isn't really a problem. Well, it's not really a problem because you only deploy it 3 or 4 times a year. Atom bombs are not employed lavishly, but when they are employed, they certainly get your attention.
And I don't think that Trevor Noah was saying it isn't a problem that there are false accusations out there. I think he's saying that the president has managed to make it seem like the greater problem because of his, and this is how Trevor Noah would state it. Trevor Noah would say that he was mocking Christine Blasey Ford.
I'm done. I get it. Oh, so Trump is a master of manipulation. And the other thing he's getting at, if he's not directly on it, he's sketching out the margins of this other argument that they use, that this whole thing is just the result of angry white men who are so terrified of losing our privileged position in society that we'll do anything to lash out and make us the victims and make us feel like we're really sorry. No, they assassinated an individual person's character. That character responded forcefully. The entire nation felt what was going on. They felt that this was a disgrace. Most of them did. Most people with a sense of sanity did. And now what Trevor Noah is trying to do is to inoculate the left against the backlash that the left caused when they began this character assassination in the first place.
Ladies and gentlemen, these kind of issues need to be debated in the public square. They need to be debated by the leading advocates of these ideas. I would contend that Bill Whittle is one of the leading advocates of these ideas from a conservative viewpoint. I don't know that Trevor Noah is the leading light on the left, but he certainly did a good job stating the case. If you haven't seen...
The leading light on the left is a 60-watt bulb, Scott.
Well, and I'll grant you this. He's from South Africa. He is obviously leaning toward the left, and primarily his job is to do a comedy show on Comedy Central. But I like the idea, Bill, that we're able to engage these ideas on a daily basis, and that's what the members at BillWhittle.com make possible, so that these accusations don't go unanswered. Now, you have a job, if you've just seen this video, and if you think that this is a valuable side of the argument, that is to share this so we can counteract some of these 25 million some views that Trevor Noah's video has had.
I have to just say, just because this needs to be said every now and then, the paying members at BillWhittle.com make this information available for free to everyone, and we want it shared everywhere. I often get people saying, "Do you mind if I use this?" No, that's the entire reason it's here. We want to give you the ammunition to be able to fight these water cooler battles with these professional liars.
This is Bill Whittle now. For Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for making this possible.